everyone, I'm Denisha Devnarayan, and you're watching the Full Quota Podcast on One World Sports Radio.
And hello, we're back again for another edition of the Full Quota Podcast. If you're wondering why we're back so soon, that is because we have the CSA T20 knockout tournament, and because it's it's like a nice little package of games every 3 days. We thought we'd do a podcast every 3 days. We normally do 2 podcasts a week if we have an interview. Now we're just doing one podcast. One podcast before and after each round of matches. We had Group A happening this week, so we're going to have Group B happening as well. Remember, please do follow us on all these on all the platforms, and also please do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help us get the word around. The more times you press that like button, our video gets distributed around the cricketing community or the community in which the video is related to. Subscribing also helps, and also the notification bell. Subscribing helps because obviously many people will follow the higher subscribed channels, and then on top of that, the notification bell is for you to know when we go live and when we go live again. So I've got Tim here to discuss the CSA T20 knockout competition. Group A ended on Sunday, Tim, and it was drama. Lions needed 130 in 18 overs to qualify, and they somehow managed to botch it on Sunday against a very strong Southwestern Districts team. They did win the match, but it came down to a situation where the Southwestern Districts managed to get through. Do you know who I blame for this? The Lions being eliminated today, and you could call them the defending champions. You know who I blame? I blame Western Province. They needed to do their job. They needed to go and beat Southwestern Districts, and they chose not to. And the Lions, by virtue of beating Northern Cape and Southwestern Districts, can't get through because Western Province also got beaten by Southwestern Districts on Saturday. It was one of the most incredible 3-wicket wins I have seen. I thought the Division 2 side, I was like, oh my word, they're showing us they're a Division 2 side. They're just about to throw us away, and they pulled out the win. But I was happy for a day, and then I was sad again the next day because I realized that I actually should have been rooting for Western Province. Tim, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was really good. I must say I enjoyed the cricket. There was an element of unknowns, even for somebody who's now in the business. There were players out there that I wasn't too aware of. They put their hand up. They put themselves at the shop window. It was exciting. If at times maybe the standard was not quite as strong as we might expect, but it was certainly very exciting.
Yes. Now let's look at that Group A results in a lot more detail, just to give you a sense of what happened. It's actually not Tuesday. I do apologize for the date there, but everything else kind of works. If you look at the fixtures that happened over the weekend, it was Tuesday, is actually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And what happened was the Lions lost to Western Province by 2 runs. Southwestern Districts won by 24 against Northern Cape Heat. The SWD and the Cape Derby beating Western Province by 3 wickets. Northern Cape Heat tying with the Lions, and the Lions winning in a Sisanda Magala super over, which is probably one of the best super overs you'll ever see. And then Southwestern Districts losing to the Lions by 4 wickets, but the Lions not getting those runs in 18 overs, which means that their run rate was lower than Southwestern Districts. And then the Northern Cape Heat losing to Western Province, who managed to get the target in the required overs to go ahead of the Lions. And if you look there at the bottom, 3 teams on 8 points, and it went down to net run rate, and the Lions losing out on net run rate. The defending champions, as you might consider them, because they just won the CSA T20 tournament earlier on, even though it wasn't the full provincial one, are out. Tim, what was your moment of the weekend? What was the one thing where you were like, wow?
It's got to be that Northern Cape Lions super over match. It has got to be that match. The Lions had absolutely no right to win that game. They were completely outplayed till the 19th over, and the Northern Cape, the Division 2 aside, when it came down to the nitty-gritty, they did the South African thing. They choked.
I wouldn't say they choked.
And then they did some very strange things at the Super Over. Do you want me to go into that?
Yeah,
to the Super Over, I have no idea. When they did well with the ball in the Super Over, you think, right, okay, nine is very achievable, even against somebody like
Kasim Adams.
I don't understand why you opened with Kasim Adams, who always takes an age to get going, and Evan Jones. In normal time, Ernest Kim makes 83 of 54 balls. 83 or 54 balls, and he got Jonathan Van Dier, one of the biggest hitters in South African domestic cricket, sitting on the bench. I do not understand that the batting
that bothered me a lot. The guy who's closest to the Proteas, the guy who doesn't, I get the Evan Jones one, and I would have gone with Evan Jones and Jonathan Van Dier, largely because both of them can clear the boundary. The only issue was, when they brought in Kasim Adams, I was like, okay, I kind of feel like they want to run this. But yeah, like I just didn't know this baseball type of I think they just thought themselves out. But I don't say it's a choke. Let me tell you why. They're a Division 2 side. And so for me, each team tells you who they are. And this weekend we saw Division 2 sides, like Southwestern Districts on Saturday was my moment of the week. Yes, the Super Over was amazing. Sisanda Magala, oh my word, best death bowler in the country by not by a country mile, but he's that good. Southwestern Districts nearly did what Northern KP did. You could see that they're a division. That's who they are. They win games, but they will make a lot of mistakes getting there. The great thing about Southwestern Districts is that they actually ended up winning that game, even though they made the mistakes. Northern KP dropped 5 catches. They managed to tie against the Lions. And then on top of that, in that Super Over, like at that point in time, I can't help you if Sisanda's bowling 6 Yorkers. It was the first time I saw South African bowlers bowl 6 Yorkers in an over. But he was on the mark. He was on the money. I was worried about the wides that Sisanda just somehow gets himself into because he aims for that leg stump. But it was really, really good to see. But for me, I don't feel bad for the Division 2 sides because they're Division 2 sides. They're supposed to make those errors. That's the reason why they're Division 2 players. They're not gonna be all buttoned up. But they managed to win, and that was the impressive thing for me this weekend. Werner Erasmus says his moment of the weekend was Heath Richards coming in and smashing the ball from the get-go. I love the lesser-known players showing what they can do. Tim, who was your standout performer of the weekend?
It's a difficult one. I thought several players stood up and made their mark. Certainly, Heath Richards' innings was certainly impressive, but I'm gonna go with a bowler, and I'm gonna go with Herschel America. I'm gonna go with the pace that he brought, the intensity, the smile to the game. He just brought everything that's good about cricket to the game. You know he's a bit rusty. You could see he's a Division 2 player. He's the current leading wicket taker at the tournament.
7 wickets, economy rate of 6.16.
Yeah, economy fantastic. Average just under 11, which is better than anyone else as well. I thought he was excellent. He was really, very, very impressive whenever he played.
Yeah, so for me, obviously, Jean du Plessis gets a big nod, Heath Richards, as well as Werner said. For me, it was Zubair Hamza. That 100 against the Lions was one of the best 100s you watch. You don't get a lot of T20 100s, and whenever you get them, they're very special. And that one from Zubair Hamza was very special. If Temba Bavuma could get into the national side after scoring that 100 against in that T20 final against the Warriors in, I think it was in 2018, Zubair Hamza does really need a look into the national side, especially for next year's T20 World Cup. Boundary percentage was very high. He
76,
batted
76 runs. 76 runs in boundaries.
In boundaries. He scored 168 runs in the tournament. Strike rate was 144. Really, really good. Average of 56. Yes, you're going to talk about the quality of the bowling, but my point, I have a very interesting take. I think the Division 2 sides had better individual bowlers as instead of the units, because the Division 1 teams you could see that they bowl as a unit, whereas you got individual bowlers like you spoke about Herschel America, Peko Malazani, just as incredible. Look at the Northern Cape Heat side, Evan Jones and Joe van Dijk, who Joe van Dijk bowls at over 150. He looks like Anouk Nokia's brother. I don't know what it is, but he is a poor man's version of Anouk Nokia, and I don't understand how Division 1 sides haven't picked this guy up, because he just bowled it back of a length and it was rising. It just was lifting up. And he was so good, so good, and that's what you want in this tournament. So those were my stand-up performances. I loved, I'm a massive fan of Zubair Hamza. I think that he's been done wrong in the Proteas setup before. I do hope that the selectors were watching, and they mustn't say no, it was Division 2. Quite frankly, those Division 2 sides are just as good. Like Northern Cape is going to be a very hard team to beat at home in the 4-day competition with those two bowlers opening for them. Like you could see Evan Jones and Joe van Dijk just taking wickets in early morning sessions when the pitch is hard, rock hard, and the ball's just flying past the batter. So too in Outeniqua, that Southwestern District's bowling attack isn't bad. Herschel America, Molatani, really, really good bowlers who want to make a name for themselves. On to another point. The player who your opinion of has improved after this tournament?
That's a difficult one. I would have to go with one of the Division 1 sides. So I'm going to have to go. It's a bit of a strange one, because I have seen him outside South Africa for a little while, because he's been away from South Africa. But I'm going to go with Wayne Parnell. And I'm going to go with Wayne Parnell in everything that he offers. He offered performances with the bat, the ball, and his leadership was second to none in this tournament. With a young province side, having to deal with youngsters, I thought the way that he managed the bowlers was absolutely outstanding. In that very, very tight game, when he had to defend 6 or 7 against, who was it? Was it against the Lions, I think?
It was against the Lions, yeah. They fell short.
He had to defend 6 or 7. He thought, wow, this is going to be a challenge. His over was magnificent. Before the tournament, he said that he likes the idea of fast captaincy, and you can see that. He's not going to be a shouter. He's not going to be reading the right attack. He's going to be put his arm around the bowler and say, listen, this is what I want you to do. And the players, you look at people like Jordan Wolf coming into the side, they all stood up and they all answered his call. So for me, it's Wayne Parnell for his all-round ability, all-round what he offered the team.
Yeah, look, I think we've spoken a lot about the Division 2 guys, and obviously their opinions, my opinions of them improved throughout. I loved Jones, Van Dijk, Ernest Kemp, Heath Richards. But if I look at that line side, the guys who's I was high on Shane Dadswell. His opinion stays the same because I think he's the guy we need in South Africa, but we need consistency. You can see why they haven't broken through. But Mitch Van Buren, and Ruan Hausbrook really took the opportunity and ran with it. Ruan Hausbrook with bat and ball in that final game, taking the Lions over the line with wickets falling around him as a youngster in the side, really good. On top of that, he took the 4 wickets as the leg spinner, really good player there. But Mitch Van Buren in that game against Southwestern Districts, even against Western Province, he really stepped up and he really put He really put Western Province to the sword. He was against some quality bowling. He really did well. He like that innings. I think it was a 53 against Western Province. I sat there going, okay, this is the type of guy I would want in the line side as my 4 and 5, even with the regulars coming back, and that says a lot about the type of batting he had. What grabbed you this weekend? You know, it doesn't have to be on the field, or it can be off the field. What grabbed you this weekend?
I thought the general ability from the Division 2 sides was pretty good. I was a bit surprised. SWD is effectively the feeder for huh?
It's the third team in the West. It's the third team in the Western Cape, because you've also got Boerland.
Yeah. So it's effectively the third team in the Western Cape. Now, they've had a sort of rich history over the years, but because of the breakup of the franchise system, they've sort of been left behind. So you could easily say 3 or 4 of those guys could have gone into the Cobra side the last couple of years. Easily. And they wouldn't disgrace themselves by any stretch. And I say that in any format. As you say, Jean du Plessis, really, really impressive. What disappointed me is particularly when you're playing this kind of cricket, like batting, it's very technical, but it was the fielding. The fielding for the Division 2 sides really, really did disappoint me. If you look at the majority of catches, they were easy catches. There were very, very few that were actually, sticking our left arm full stretch. I counted conservatively 10 drop catches between the two sides. This weekend.
Actually, it was more than that, because Northern Cape in one game dropped 5. And one of them was the wicketkeeper, Dikhala, dropping Sisanda Magala. And you were like, what? Sisanda was Luto, Sipamla, and you sat there going, oh, okay. This is how it is here at this level. So
the catching was dreadful. There's no doubt about it. It was dreadful.
Yeah, so I think from my end, what grabbed me was the style of play the Division 2 teams had. So, for instance, the way in which they were so fearless, they went very aggressive at the top, and they kept on being aggressive. Jean du Plessis, Yassine Valley was more like an anchor, but everybody else after Yassine Valley was out to get boundaries. They were looking and seeking that boundary ball. And it just kept on going. And to a certain extent, if you look at the Division 1 sides, they were more traditional in building. And I kind of felt like, from a coaching perspective, the Division 2 sides are much more closer to what the rest of the world is doing. And the Division 1 sides are still in that the way the Proteas are setting up right now. All the complaints we have about the Proteas, we saw in the Division 1 sides. Whereas in the Division 2 sides, we saw a lot more boundary hitting. The one thing I must impress upon with Western Province, they actually did quite well. I loved the way Calvarena batted in his role. It was more cameo-ish, but he was seeking boundaries, and he was effectively doing that. And to a certain extent, the Lions didn't do that apart from that middle order. The moment you got to that middle order of Van Buren, Dadswell, Magala, Haasbroek, that 4 was looking for boundaries, and I loved it this weekend. We saw high-scoring games. We saw, even in the fact that Northern Cape and SWD would manage to get 160 against the Lions and Western Province says that they're good sides, says that they're really good. The one thing that bothered me was that how does a guy like Evan Jones not get a Division 1 contract, or a guy like Evan Roos, not Evan Jones. Evan Jones, sorry, Evan Roos is a rugby player, and also Joe van Dijk. Joe van Dijk, for me, is outside of Herschel America, looks ready for a Division 1 side. So what's going on with the scouting networks? So it's such that Joe van Dijk is sitting in a Division 2. He's going to be playing Division 2 cricket, but the guy should be in the pipeline for SAA. He's that good a bowler. If you look at Anu Koke and you look at Joe van Dijk, they're pretty much carbon. The only difference is that Anu Koke has gotten probably better coaching, and Joe van Dijk is trying to make his way up into a place where he can get better coaching. And if he does, he could be pretty good. And so for me, that was the one thing that bothered me about this week. I was like, the scouts in South Africa don't know what they want, because there are a lot of players who could be in some Division 1 sides. I'm going to talk about some in the second portion of the show. And yeah, so that was what was bothering me. Otto Simon asking, what do you think the implementing selection rules as per the IPL in terms of players who must be born after a certain date, having not played X Games and such in this competition? So obviously, picking youngsters and putting like a date to it and be like, after a certain date, for all the ones you can't play or whatever it is. But I thought we saw a lot of youngsters. That Southwestern Districts team was average age was about 24. And a lot of 20-year-olds which were in there. Whereas obviously Northern Cape, slightly a little bit older, but Joe van Dijk, Evan Jones, the guys who actually did perform, did quite well. Actually, the one disappointment was Rivaldo Munsami and Kasim Adams. I kind of felt that this was their shop window moment, and they didn't make the most of it. And that was like one of the things that truly bothered me.
I think you talk about the player recruitment there, and you're absolutely right. Division 2 sides have been sleeping. What were the franchises have been sleeping. We've spoken about those players that definitely should have at least had half a dozen 20 games for the franchises. But
for instance, Tim, just before I can continue after this, for instance, a Cobra side that hasn't won a first-class game in 3 years or won one in 3 years should have been giving guys like Jean du Plessis an opportunity. I just don't understand how you have a team like Southwestern Districts and he's showing, unless if it was one of those situations where you're coming up against the big boy, so you need to step up. But yeah, for me, I was just very surprised.
But the other thing is, and I've got to be a little bit not too harsh on this. That's where I think Team Back Northern Cape have got it wrong in their selection. When they were selected the side, and I admit it's difficult, there were many challenges, but there had to be a choice between Aubrey Swanepoel or Kasim Adams, not the both of them. It needed one of them to be there, not the both. The both of them, it makes them look a little bit thin. Kasim Adams was once a good player. He isn't anymore.
Even a Rivaldo Munsami, I get the selection, and I think he's still in the middle of his career, but he obviously couldn't cut it at the Titans. He's a wicket keeper by positioning, so his average is slightly lower than what you would expect, because I think he's not a bad gloveman. I just kind of felt that I thought maybe at Division 2 he might show a little bit more, application in his batting, and he got that. He was the one who came out for that super over with Evan with Kasim Adams, he was he the substitute? Yes, he was.
Substitute.
Did he come?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the Lions didn't take a wicket. It was just line and length, and that bothered me. And I was like, okay, but this guy hasn't shown much, and that was my disappointment. Outside of the fact that the Lions team, and this is my rant for the Lions team, right? How do you have everything going for you in the back office? Wandile Gwavu, player, coach, nominated coach of the year, won T20 tournaments with the Lions earlier this year. You've got Prasanna, who is like the former Proteas analyst. Like the guy tells you how many runs you need. You got JP Germany, South Africa's greatest ever T20 player, and you stunk up the joint. Like, I don't know how to. That's a team that choked. Everybody else, they're Division 2 sides. That team choked. You can't get 130 in 18 overs. What is this? And to a certain extent, from a batting perspective, and that's the thing, like taking Kagiso Rapulana as well as Dominic Hendricks, you needed to take one. You couldn't have both. And you kind of, in the third game, sacrificed a batsman's position to kind of have one extra bowler and push Sisanda Magala up. The only lucky thing for the Lions this weekend was that actually this was the weekend that Sisanda actually scored runs. You can't rely on Sisanda all the time. Like in that final game, he only scored 5 runs. But he came through for you. And somehow Malusi Sibota came through for you. You can't be relying on that to win games. And it was a massive, they messed it up somewhere along the line, either in selection or even in thinking. Like, I looked at that Northwest side and I kind of felt that they could have kept one of the batsmen that they had. I know they had Wesley Marshall go that side. They had Nicky van der Berg go that side. This side was missing one of those guys. Or even a Delano Potgieter. Yes, you lost a lot of Proteas, but you could have planned around the fact that Vian Mulder was going to be a mainstay in the side, because it was this is what the problem was.
Yeah.
I think maybe they thought Vian wasn't going to go to the World Cup and he would slot right into the side and it would make this side so much better, but he wasn't, and I think that's kind of what hurt them. But from a planning perspective, it kind of looked like they were so surprised. Like you said last week, we don't know what these teams were. We didn't know what they were going to show us. So that element of surprise kind of came through in all of that. But it's kind of sad that now you got a quarterfinals without the Lions, but it's also exciting that Southwestern districts are standing there, top of the log, waiting to play the loser, or the runner-up in Group B. They've given themselves every chance of making it into the semifinals and into the Final Four and more. But yeah,
if they play the Tuskers, for example, then it's 50-50. It's 50-50.
Okay, actually, speaking about that, let's move to Group B. Group B fixtures, right? Group B looks like this. You've got tomorrow, the Knights play the Titans. Then in the afternoon, the Mpumalanga Rhinos play the Tuskers, which are KZN England. The Tuskers then play the iTech Knights the following morning. Then the Rhinos play the Titans. The Tuskers then finish off with the Titans, and they also play the Rhinos play the Knights. Now, Tim, let's look at the squads that we have here. Some names. I'm just going to give you some names from the big squads. The Tuskers case in England, Michael Erlang is a journeyman in South African cricket. Cameron Delport, everyone knows who Cameron Delport is. He's going to be punishing teams at the top. I'm a fan of Andile Mokhakane. And I know Luke Schlemmer did something over the past 2 weeks in preseason games that I'm going to ask you about. From a Knights perspective, this Knights team is packed. Proteas, former Proteas, new Proteas, Pike van Biljon, Farhan Behardine, Gerald Kutsia, Matthew Kleinfeld, who I think is an underrated player, Wandile Makwetu, Mosehle. They've got Miguel Pretorius. Riley Rousseau makes a comeback into this tournament. Jacques Snyman, who was selected for the Proteas earlier this year. Reinhard van Tonne, unbelievable squad. If you look at the Titans, Dean Alger's captaining, which is going to be quite great. I'm excited to see Corbin Bosch, though. Ayak Kamane, we know his big six hitting at the bottom end. Dan Khalim needs a good tournament to kind of get back into everyone's eye line. Pangiso is a very good T20 bowler. Gian Kluter as well is going to be quite interesting to see, and so too Sponelo Makanya. In Mpumalanga Rhinos, you've got Yasso Cook, who we're going to probably get on this tournament on the show as well. I know, Tim, I think you're a fan of Bamanya Klegne. There, whose name is there at the bottom. Ruben Herman used to play for the Titans. He's now at Mpumalanga, largely unknown this Mpumalanga side, but we could get a lot of upsets. Tim, looking at those squads, where are the upsets coming? Which squad is the best? Which squad is bad? And tell the world. Let's start with that. Tell the world about Luke Schlemmer.
Luke Schlemmer, he did extremely. He's a good cricketer. He and Pamani recently. Is it right? Yes, that's right. Yeah, Pamani. They played a preseason fixture against the Dolphins, so their parent club, and
also known as KZN Coastals,
Division
1 team.
Yeah. And they did extremely well against the Dolphins, which had people like Tando Ntini, Tupavilion, and people like that who are first teamers in that Dolphins setup, and they won the game. They absolutely thrashed them. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I know that they both made 60 plus. And Bamani also contributed with the ball. I have spoken to the Mpumalanga coach a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
He tells me that when you think about Bamani, think Andile Pekwaya before his injuries. Left-hand bat, hard-hitting individual, likes to take the attack to the bowlers, and good right-arm medium-pace bowler, wicket-to-wicket sort of stuff. So think of that sort of box sort of cricketer who likes to take the opposition apart.
And
so
that's actually very good to know, and we'll be looking out for him.
Mm.
Another player that I want you to talk about from the Tusker side, Andile Mokhakane. He's a top order batsman, very young. I think he's 21 years old. In that game, he also did, as you alluded to me in the message, did smash the Dolphins with Luke Schlemmer.
He was absolutely smashing it to all parts. I've actually got this wrong. So it was Mokhakane and Schlemmer who were dominating for Tuskers against the Dolphins. So apologies for that. I've got that mixed up.
So it's Mokhakane who's the Andile Pekwaya. Yes, he's an all-rounder. Yes.
Bamani for who's going to be playing for the Mpumalanga Rhinos is one to watch, and the Mpumalanga coach did tell me that those things that he's the one sort of X factor in their side. But to go on the Tuskers, those two that you mentioned, they pulverized the Dolphins it was a preseason fixture, but if you looked at the actual game, those Dolphins guys were giving it everything. The quicker they bowled, the further the ball went. Mokhakane likes to hit it square to the wicket, it seems, both sides of the wicket. So Tupafilion and Tanto and Tini did the fast bowling thing. They got shorter, and the shorter they got, the further they went. They got absolutely smashed all over the park.
And we're getting comments in the last part about black batsmen. So Mokhakane is someone who's a black batsman who's up and coming, as well as the fact that he can bowl too. So he's someone you should watch out for tomorrow afternoon, because I do think the Rhinos are in for. They're going to be the Northern Cape Heat of this group.
Yeah.
They're going to lose probably all their games.
Yeah.
Largely because you can even see they don't have a full 15-man squad. They're a franchise that's actually starting. The province is actually like restarting. They had so many issues to the point where their base normally should be in Witbank. It's not. They're playing in White River for this season. So that kind of tells you the level of work. They're the only province that did not apply for a Division 1 status. All 14 provinces applied for a Division 1 status. They decided not to because they felt that they were rebuilding. So it might be a step too far for that. But Yasar Cook is still a good batsman. And Bamani is a really, really good all-round cricketer. So those are the guys you would be watching out for. Now let's talk about the division. Yes.
Can I just get in there? So they've also got Ruben Herman for the Titans. So that they are getting a little bit of experience. But the coach told me that what is very important for him is to promote from within. So that's been a conscious decision from him. So the majority of their players, as you've alluded to, they come from the area. That's what he wants to do. It's going to take a little time. It probably is going to take that time until we get to the promotion relegation situation.
Even then, yes.
But, he says by that time he's hoping to be competitive in all three formats. He said it's going to take time before we start thinking about promotion relegation, but at least then he's hoping by then that they'll be winning games in all three formats, being competitive. So he's not glossing over anything on there. He knows exactly what they are and what they're about.
I think the way I see this, it's going to be a game of musical chairs. And the thing about what's going to happen now is that what currently in South African cricket, it kind of is like there's an inherent salary cap. It's not spoken about, but there's an inherent salary cap. And Mpumalanga still can offer good high level-ish contracts by the virtue that CSA is fitting the bill for 15 players. Doesn't matter which 15 players there are, you still get paid the same amount based on your level of experience. So Mpumalanga will be able to, in the next couple of years, attract some of those guys who want that higher level contract, but aren't getting it at a Division 1 side. Yes, the moving around is going to be tough, but it's not a bad province to live in. And it's gonna open it up for them to be able to be competitive. Right now, I think, and rightly so, they need to build a pipeline. They need to get club cricket back in Mpumalanga as strong as it is, and also give themselves a 5-year runway. But every year, aim to win more games than the year before. That's how, in any sport, in any league, bad teams who are rebuilding look at that formula. Try win 1 game a season, that's fine. 2 games, you only have about 7 games in first class cricket. So try win 1, aim for 1 and win 1. For instance, that Northern Cape match in White River, maybe aim for that. Be like, okay, if they come to White River, we're going to be dogged, we're going to be hard, we're going to dominate, we're going to try and put them under pressure and make them make mistakes. The Northern Cape side is still not too bad, but you were like, maybe I can beat them. But that's how you should look at it. But now, Tim, let's look at the 2 Division 1 sides, right? One team has Proteas, and like the Lions last week, look a completely weakened side without their main Protea players. That's the Titans. But the other side has former Proteas, new Proteas, up-and-coming Proteas, the fans are asking for. I looked at that and I'm like, how did they manage that? And that's the
only thing I'm going to say is remain cautious. Just remain cautious. Just remain a little bit cautious. It's a very exciting team. It covers all bases. That squad. But if you look at last year's squad was not that dissimilar, and they fell away badly. The back end of last season, just in general, they fell away. They lost a lot of games.
They started like a house on fire.
They started brilliantly with all those players, and then they just, for whatever reason, fell away. So just remain cautious. They should be top of the Pool B.
They should win the thing.
It shouldn't even be a question. They should win Pool B. They should be in the semi-finals probably. I love that squad. There's so many players that I really want to see do well. I'm interested to see what Riley does back in South Africa. Very interested to see. He has not necessarily been doing massively brilliantly in the UK where he's been, but he's been pretty decent. And particularly against these teams, he should dominate. Let's be honest.
Which is why I kind of feel, knowing how the other teams that are still yet to play are still waiting on their international players, not their Protea, but the guys in the UK. We saw SWD play without Elias Deploy. Dane Patterson's probably on his way back. He's not going to play. Carl Abbott's not playing for Paul. Simon Harmer's not playing for Paul. Was Simon Harmer's playing for the Titans this year, right?
Titans.
Yes, Simon Harmer's not playing because he's on his way back. And these guys elevate. So I look at this Knights team like, yeah, it's like last year, but Miguel Pretorius has played in the IPL now. Oh, no, that's Marco Jansen. In the CPL, that's Miguel Pretorius. Miguel Pretorius has played in the CPL now. He's gotten better. Reinhard van Tonder, last time we saw him, was in and around the Proteas setup. He's gotten better. He played a couple of emerging tours. He's much better. Riley Rousseau takes this team from being just, we're good enough, to being, we're really, really good. Piet van Biljon, same thing. Mainstay Protea type of guys. And it's I look at this and I'm like, I don't think any other team is going to give us this. They're going to lay this out to us. The only other team I could possibly think of is the Paul Rocks, probably giving us Pieter Janeman Milan, giving us Stian van Zyl, who I think might be available by then, but we'll wait and see. Even the Dolphins, I look at the Dolphins and I'm like, it's possible because that's the team that got to the finals, but they're without David Miller, they're without Cash. But like I look at this Knights team and I'm like, dude, there's no like you if they don't win the tournament, and I'm talking about this entire thing, 16 teams, then something's truly, truly wrong. Gerald Coetzee is a year better. Everyone, it's a young squad, they're all a year better, but there are moments where you're like, okay, teams can target Alfred Moto. Teams can target Gregory Mahlokwana. Teams can target, I'm assuming some of the other guys, like if Patrick, if Pite starts bowling or Farhan starts bowling, they could start tackling them. I'm not like I love Gregory Mahlokwana, can bowl with both hands. Still has a lot to learn in the game, and so that's where you can pick them off. Whereas if you look at this Titan side, like outside of Dean Alga, Pangi, Spinello Makanya, Gian Kluter, there are a couple of guys here who need to make the name for themselves. They haven't impressed. Dan Khalim hasn't impressed. He was touted as the next Jacques Callas of color. Hasn't come through fruition. He's at a second club now, second year, maybe will come through. Spinello Makanya needs to find that Paul Rocks form in MSL2. And there's so many questions about the side than answers. Look at the Knights, there's answers. Viepia, you kind of are like, their answers. I can see what they're trying to do. The Lions, you're like a lot less questions than this Titan side. But there were still questions, and you can't go into a tournament with questions like, can Dean Alga be a comfortable T20 batsman? Where do you bat Dean Alga? Do you bat him at 4? Do you open with Gian Kluter? What does the Titans look like? Whereas if I look at this Night side, I'm like, oh, easy. You can literally slot them in up until 11. Whereas this Titan side, you're like, not so sure. But Tim, one last thing before we close. Yes.
I'm just gonna go in there with the Titans. The Titans are batsmen short. They're at least two batsmen short in there. They are huge problems. All the emphasis as well is going to be on Punky. Punky bowls badly. That's the spinning option. The spinning option is Punky. Punky has a bad game, then they're really in trouble. Of course,
they also don't have a frontline seamer.
That's true.
Where's Junior Dala?
I don't know, but I do know that on their tour to Namibia, where they got absolutely trounced. They did. I'm sorry. The Titans got trounced.
Hey, look, the Knights also got trounced by Namibia, so put respect on Namibia.
They both did. They both got trounced. Both of them. But Tunis de Bruin got injured, and he's out of the tournament. He got injured in Namibia. So that is, as I said,
that's the biggest loss for them.
That is huge blow. I think they need 2 batsmen, but that one to Tunis at this level is actually worth 2. He's actually worth 2 at this level.
Oh, and that's just unfortunate.
Him being out is massive for the Titans. So that opens space up for the Tuskers. That Tusker squad is a very solid squad. And you've mentioned Cameron Delport. We've mentioned Luke Schlemmer. It's got really good up-and-coming youngsters. It's got 2 left-arm spinners. It's got an off-spinner. So it's covers bases. It's got the batsmen. It's got the spinners. It's got, what's the guy's name? Mondi, I've forgotten his surname. Pace bowler. It's under 19 pace bowler. There's, Mondi
Kumal.
There we go. There's it's under 19 guys in there. Carl Nipper is a good batsman. Keith Dudgeon is a good seasoned cricketer. That Tusker side could cause at that weak Titan side all sorts of problems. If they get everything right, it's everything suggests that the two teams they could go through could be the Knights and the Tuskers. Absolutely.
So there's a name here from Werner. Neil Brand will also spin for the Titans. Yes, I think Neil Brand's the one. They need a lot from Neil Brand this tournament. They're going to need him to bowl and bat well. And it's going to be interesting to see. And that's what this tournament is about, especially because with the way South Africa likes to use cross-format selections. If you have a great T20 tournament, you'll find yourself in a first-class starting 11. So, which I disagree with, but that's the way they've always done it. So that's something that I think Neil Brand needs to try and look out for. Try and be that number one spinner and for the Titans. But it's going to be hard to unseat Pangi there.
Like you say with Khalim, he's been around the system a little while. It didn't work out for him in the UK. I know he tried to get a county contract there, came back, and he hasn't really, it's been the odd game where he's spent 100 there, then he's had 4 or 5 failures in a row. He hasn't cemented his place. It's going to be 3 or 4 guys in there in that Titans 11, as you said. They've got to make them mark. So listen, I want to be here for this new season. I want to be in charge, and Brandt is one of those guys. He's got to dominate now.
He does. So let's just have a look at the fixtures again. Obviously, Tim's saying upset alert when the Tuskers play the Titans. So that will be Thursday, 10 a.m. In Bloem. Everything's obviously on SuperSport. The Mpumalanga Rhinos take on the Tuskers tomorrow, but we start off with the Knights and the Titans. And the Tuskers play the Knights on Wednesday morning. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how they come through with that. I'm not a fan of having the 2 Division 1 teams play first up, but I'm okay with that. CSA, I've had my rant about it. Yeah, I'd love for them to play last. Like imagine Sunday afternoon, Vietnam versus the Lions, who winner takes all. But I'm okay with that for now. Call me later when you What do you want to see in these next couple of days, Tim, to close off?
Better fielding standards. Come on, guys. Better fielding standards. Stop dropping catches, please. No, but seriously. I want all the teams to play like you said the Division 2 teams have been playing. I want them to be playing where the T20 cricket has been played now. So I want particularly, it's going to be a bit hard for Mpumalanga to do, but a team like the Tuskers, the Knights with their team, and Gene Elgar and Copley, I want them to push hard, go hard, look for 170, try to get this as much as you can. Try not to be too conservative. Let's go for big strike rates.
And it's Bloem. And what I loved about what we got in Kimberley was pitches were still hard even on day 3. Obviously they had 3 strips. So obviously, but they were still very good cricketing wickets. Runs were being scored. Bowlers had to earn their wickets. And you were punished for bad shots. Obviously, Northern Cape didn't want to punish teams enough. They just wanted to punish themselves, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I think what I want to see tomorrow is, as you say, good fielding, good cricket, good batting, aggressive batting. Not this, guys, we're going to walk our way to the total. Look for singles and 2s, that's fine. But aim for boundary and over. If you can get 2 boundaries and over, that would be great. Be more aggressive, be fearless, be brave. Southwestern districts were fearless and were brave, and they made it in. It is possible as a Division 2 side to do it. And right now, CSA is smiling because what they thought would happen in a couple of years is already starting to happen. And that is just because people are not selecting, stop selecting your faves. Please stop selecting your faves. Select guys who actually can play cricket, who actually have a high skill level. And Joe van Dijk, this one's for you. Evan Jones, this one's for you. Jean du Plessis, this one's for you. You guys have been done wrong. you've been done wrong. I don't get how in South Africa's cricket mad loving country, guys are being overlooked with talent like this. And they were consistent over 3 games, which tells me that this is who they are. But yeah, last comment from Werner. He says Bloemfontein should be flat, easy track, Fantonda's bread and butter. Sneema might go crazy. Werner, I look at that night squad and I see 200. I see 220. If they don't get 200 in any of the 3 games, or even a minimum of 180, then they've let themselves down. But enjoy the games. Tim, thank you very much. We'll be back again on Friday to talk about the games. They're going to start on Monday. We're going to give you like a whole weekend to like mull over our comments and everything else. But yeah, enjoy the cricket, everybody. It's going to be great. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the Full Quota Podcast. Please do catch us on all the different platforms. We also have an audio version on Anchor podcast. The comment is in the YouTube comment section. The link is in the YouTube comment section, as well as the Facebook comment section. Essentially, it's One World Sports Radio on Anchor, which leads you to Spotify. So you can find us on Spotify at One World Sports Radio. We're also available on Apple. So that's a good thing. Please do support us with that as we try to build this thing out as the season goes. Our aim was to cover the entire domestic season. We've arrived, and now we're doing it. So please do support us and let us go. Tim, your insight is always loved. I enjoy it. Please come with coaches' comments, player comments, because that's what makes us great. So thank you very much, my friend. And yeah, we'll chat again and we'll discuss and interact with us on Twitter. Tim always asks questions and nobody wants to answer. Please answer the questions. But yeah, outside of that, have a great weekend, a great week, and yeah, enjoy the cricket. And we'll chat again on Friday. And for myself and Tim, have a good day, good night, and le sale kakahiso.
Hi everyone, I'm Denisha Devnarayan, and you're watching the Full Quota Podcast on One World Sports Radio.